Okay. And we are live.
Woohoo!
I wish I had one of those like big red lights like from the radio station that says like on air and it was like blinking. I used to
That
have a
would
college radio station. I didn't have a college radio station. No, I didn't have that. I had a show on a college radio station when I was in college. It was like me and my roommate, we just talked about random stuff. And that was one of my favorite things. Like we had this big light, that was in the background, and we had a producer and he would tell us when we could start talking and stuff like that.
That's the ambiance for sure.
I would need to put it like right there between the guitars so people could see it, like on air, live with Danni Roseman.
Yeah.
So thank you, Danni, for speaking to me. If you're not familiar with it, I've got this group called the International Funnel Community, which we're live in right now, but it's a group that's dedicated to helping people, particularly that have businesses or might have business aspirations and need help with marketing. And I have my specialty is marketing funnels, which I think we've talked about it in previous conversations leading up to this interview. But that's who's watching us. People they're mostly expats. There's obviously quite a lot of people from Spain, but people from all over the world are watching. But it's Facebook, so I mean that's also normal. And the reason I had you on is because we met back in 2016 at this event called Thrive, which was organized by this really cool company called Las Morenas de España. And I wasn't really, when I got invited to speak at the event or participate in the event in one of your panel discussions, I wasn't really familiar with what it was you guys did, but I did realize instantaneously like the massive impact that you guys had, particularly because sorry, my notifications here, particularly because it was just a shock, because the Madrid I knew just a year before, and this is 2016 when the Thrive conference happened. Yeah. I left in 2016, like earlier that year. Before that, I had never been in a room with more than like maybe 15, 20 Black people in Spain at the same time. And like realness. I mean, I know we have an international group here. I'm just being real. And so that was very, very impactful, because I was like, it was a lot of people like us, POC people, in one singular space with one singular focus. And that was like impactful to me. And I was like enthralled. So ever since we met that time when I did the check-in, I think you were at the like registration desk or something like that, I've been really curious about you, about your story. I've been following you. We've maintained some like loose contact through social media, but I've read about you, and we're here to discover like what it is that drives you, because you're known for being a great content producer, content creator, sorry. And we kind of want to pick your brain, because in the world of marketing and funnels, it's like a key element to the beginning phase of a funnel. And that phase is the attraction phase, the phase in which you have to create a connection with your audience. And, for most people that are using marketing funnels, the strategy of any kind of marketing is to get clients, right? Or to get you want people to perform a specific action, which is usually purchase your product, purchase your service, or something like that. And it takes some time to get there. You can't just ask people to do stuff, just buy me, I can do it. It's really hard. The way that most people do it is focusing on content. So I wanted to ask you some questions, and the first one is really kind of like, what's your story about getting into this space? Like, how did you even decide that this was how I don't know if you made a conscious decision, if you fell into it. I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, for sure. So I've been living in Spain since 2012. I moved here to do a master's in linguistics, and my university happens to have a campus here. So that's how I got to Madrid specifically. And I had been living here for a while when I joined a Facebook group, super vintage, a throwback, called Bellas Morenas. And this is a group.
What was it called?
Bellas Morenas.
Bellas Morenas.
Yeah, and it was like a little group that we had started by another woman, and her name's escaping me right now. I think it was maybe Charisse. And I saw a call out. Asking for writers who wanted to contribute their personal stories to this new platform that was going to start, a new blog. And I reached out to the person, who was Sienna Brown, and she hadn't launched it just yet, but she was gathering content. And I liked the initial call out because they wanted personal experiences. And after having lived in Spain for 2 years prior,
so this is
I had a lot to say.
12, you said, or?
So I moved here in 2012, and this was in 2014.
Okay, all right,
yeah,
got it.
I had 2 years worth of things to kind of vent about, which I realized later on is not the way to write content, venting. But initially, that was what kind of perked my ears, I guess. So I started writing, but my background has always been in literature and linguistics. So I've always been a fan of words, love writing. I worked as an editor in college, and having this initial kind of introduction to the blogging world was really, really cool for me. So LMDES started as a strictly online blog. And when we saw, Sienna kind of came up with this idea because there was a really negative narrative when you would even just Google Black women in Spain, or Black in Spain, or Black people in Spain. The search results that came up were either deterring people like us from coming or contributing to negative stereotypes. And
how did you guys get to the point where you're talking about where you're kind of defining what it is you guys want to accomplish with this? Because like what prompted you to say, okay, you met Sienna in Bella, what's it called? Las Bellas Morenas. Yeah. Las Bellas Morenas. And she had an idea, which was to have a blog that would just talk about Black women, or was it to change the situation? Was there a situation that she wanted to change? What was like the motivating factor? Was it just like, oh, we should speak because we should, or there's something that needs to change here? Like, was it, or a combination? I don't know.
Yeah. So I don't want to speak for her, but what I will say is that my understanding is we wanted to highlight experiences that weren't on either opposite of the extreme side of the spectrum. We wanted to show that you can be Black, be a woman, be an expat in Spain, and have a normal life. And it doesn't have to be something that's super fetishized or super exoticized or super extreme. You know, we wanted to bring everyday experiences. We wanted to inform, and we wanted to encourage. For many people in our age group at that time, it wasn't a common thing to just pack up and leave your country. So we wanted to be a place where you could get information that was useful and valuable, that was authentic, and that also informed.
Okay.
That's the idea. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. And so from there, well, you started writing for Las Morenas de España.
Yeah.
Did you have any previous blog experience, or was this kind of the first time that you had any?
No, I hadn't blogged. No, I hadn't blogged before. Read and write for sure, but I hadn't actually blogged. I hadn't gotten into that world just yet. And as I kind of found my voice with LMDS, my role shifted. and I took on more responsibilities. And I grew from just being a contributing writer to eventually being over the content strategy. And then when we made another pivot to more in-person events, I took over the community aspect as well. So didn't have any previous blogging experience, just writing and editing, and then learned a little bit about how I wanted my voice to be, and then moved from there.
So how did you, I mean, I would say that you're good at it, because I have like a few articles that I've written. It's mostly to kind of create a little bit of market authority or a little fluff, so that when people search for me or go to my website, they can actually see some type of written content, some authoritative content regarding marketing or funnels. So my content really, when it came to the stuff that I write about, was just stuff that is kind of, I don't want to say technical, but stuff that has to do specifically with what I want to achieve, which is to grow my business and get clients. And so I had there was a business aspect to it. I didn't get involved with blogging before that, except for I wrote one time for Las Morenas about being a dad in Spain. That was one time that I.
Such a popular piece. It's still a popular piece to this day.
Is it? Okay. That was so many years ago. It was like ridiculous amount of years ago. That was like one of the first times I've ever really written. But now, I mean, if I write, it's really kind of got like either a purpose, and, you know, it comes from a place of inspiration. But how did you get good at what you do? How did you get good at the content writing? Or how do you even measure that? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, when I first started writing, I took it at face value. I thought blogging is just an online journal, and that's not, if you want to scale your business, that's not the case. So I had to get over my aversion to numbers and data and start analyzing and kind of following up with my content as well. So I learned first how to kind of keep my finger on the pulse of our audience. And I started to analyze what people were asking about, what they were searching for. I went into our email to see the most frequently asked questions. I checked our Facebook community to see what people were really talking about. And I think everything kind of shifted for me as a content creator when I started following up with my articles. So it wasn't enough to just write it, publish it, and then like walk away. No, I had to check in to see how it's ranking, and like who's looking at it, and how long are they staying on the page, and what are they searching for when they're trying to find it. So when I got over my aversion to data, I started being a better content creator, because it taught me that it's not just about writing. You have to know who you're talking to, what you're writing about, and then you have to follow up with it.
So, you know, the purpose that drives people to take action or to do the things that they're doing, like start a blog or put out content, is kind of critical, because, you know, like you said, lots of people start a blog because they just want a platform, right? Mm-hmm. They just want to speak. And I'm sure there's lots of bloggers that have founded their blogs off of that, you know, just saying, well, I just want to say whatever, you know, whatever I want without, you know, just have a space. And sometimes things resonate, sometimes don't. But there's plenty of, I guess, famous people that have started like doing that. How did you develop that objective? Because you would have to have some type of, you know, what made you care about who was reading? Was it because you wanted to influence them somehow, or because you wanted them to take action with Las Morenas somehow? Was there actually any business interest there, with, you know, trying to actually meet, you know, make ends meet and try to, you know, eat every month based off of these kind of things? Like, what was that driving force that was like, no, I need to check this and make sure? Because some people would just put out content and be like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah, there it is.
So yeah, where did you find that? You know, what was that objective? What was that drive?
Yeah. So LMDES started as a blog in 2014. We had a couple years where we were mostly just online. Thrive was like the culmination of like, we're doing in-person events. And that's when we started taking more of like entrepreneurship, remote work type of focus. We had another shift in maybe 2018, 2019 towards courses. So we started shifting towards courses, developing the curriculum for these courses. And of course, courses need students. So trying to make sure that we're speaking to the right people, our voice changed again. And it's so essential now because our in-person events aren't an option, no, because of the whole situation with the pandemic. So the sustainable aspect of the business are our students and are the people who sign up for our courses. And that's why content in these funnels is important, because it's giving people a preview. It's establishing ourselves as thought leaders in our sector, giving them a taste of what they can learn from us. So the shift happened when we took a more, because once we were here, we kind of shifted our view to the United States or to outside of Spain. Yeah, we have readers in many different countries, but we were first talking to people here a little bit like, this is where you can go get your hair done. And this is where you can find this restaurant.
Okay, got it, yeah.
Things like that. And then when we realized that people didn't need LMDS as much to find other people of color because the community had grown so much, we realized there was a need for people who wanted to get here but didn't know how.
I see.
Yeah. So once that shift happened, that's when the voice changed. And that's when we had a different kind of business model approach to it. So then we started writing things about remote work opportunities, so what visas apply, I don't know, like all types of things, but
practical things.
Yeah, not just the cutest restaurants in Madrid to go out for brunch, because our audience changed. But in 2014, 2012, 2013, I wouldn't see people who looked like me walking down the street. And that's why in the beginning, that was the need. That was the immediate need, community. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, the circumstances changed, so you had to adjust.
Yeah, we had a huge pivot.
That's incredible. Because when I think about, like what I said, the thing that shocked me the first day I met you and I walked into those doors at Thrive and was like, I mean, it was like almost like being in Atlanta. Like, I'm from Atlanta, and which has a very large African American population. It was like walking into like any restaurant in Atlanta, or like my mom's church. Like it was just so impactful because, like you said, at that time, and it wasn't like, I've been here since 2005. I've seen a lot. I remember being like the only person everywhere I went. I mean, especially only like African American, because there are Africans. I live in Lavapiés, which is a kind of has a high African community population, but I never really met African Americans or British. How do they refer to themselves? African Anglo-Africans, or people from that were of color from England or Britain. It was just a shock. And like what you said, is like when it reached, I guess, a point, like a point, you just had to refocus, because before it was like, well, there's no one like us here. They are, but they're kind of like in the woodwork, and so they need information on where to do this and where to do that, and especially if you're a Black woman, where to get your hair done and stuff like that. But then you also created this group because of that, and then there was people from the outside that were looking in, that were like, well, I want to go to Spain. And it's just incredible to think about, because, and I don't want to go off on a tangent, but this is something interesting. It's that you had to be like a trend setter and like a kind of rule breaker in order to get through to where, like, to get to where you are now, because lots of the people that want to come to Spain or that wanted to come to Spain didn't come to Spain because they would read stuff and say, well, there's no black people in Spain, or Spain is racist. Spain, or you know, this is not good. I don't want to go to a place. But how, if you decide no and everyone else behind you says no for this exact same reason, then how do you expect anything to change? You were the person that decided to take charge and say, well, I'm going to change it. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to create content so that people can see that there are things here, and there are us here. There are people here. And so that's just incredible. Sorry, I'm just wow.
It was like when that change happened, I will be completely transparent. When that change happened and that magic formula was working for so long, and all of a sudden it wasn't working as well. It was a low point for me as a content creator, because I was thinking, why are the numbers changing? Why aren't people as responsive? Like, what's happening? And they didn't need us. They didn't need LMDS in the same way that they needed us before. And that's how we knew that the pivot was so essential. But it's like it's good and it's bad. You know, it's bad because it's like, oh no, what's happening? But it's good because like we accomplished it, like we did it. So like the fact that you don't need to go to LMDS to find other Black women, because there are now other groups. There's whole Black-owned businesses, you know, like you don't need, they didn't need us in that same way, because we were able to kind of set up and like plant those seeds, you know, and by no means taking credit for the entire movement whatsoever, no, but like we were able to kind of be a starting point for a lot of people. And once they got what they needed, they were able to kind of like disperse and keep growing, and it's dope. But it meant that our audience changed. It meant that we needed to make sure that we were still speaking to the right people about the right things. So it shifted from, like I said, what to do in Madrid or what to do in Barcelona or whatever, to how can we help people who aren't here yet? And yeah.
And that's kind of the message that you guys are on right now.
Yeah, so our focus right now is we have different courses. The main course is Mastery Move Abroad, and it basically helps people step by step from like the conceptualization of what their life abroad will look like, even if it's not Spain. So that's another change. It's not just Spain that we're working with necessarily.
Okay.
How to find remote work opportunities, how to even like pitch working remotely to your current employers if that's a possibility, how to kind of make a financial timeline to move abroad successfully. We basically want to give people any semblance of freedom they can have when it comes to their work life. And I appreciate the work-life balance that I have here in Spain. I think it's awesome. It's awesome. And yeah, we want other people to have that as well. So we're no longer, I mean, obviously we have over 400 articles on the site. We have over 400 pieces of content on the site, not just from me, but also from our team of contributing writers throughout the years. But that's a great place to go for resources. But now our main focus is like, how do we get people where they want to be, basically.
Wow. So it sounds like you are hypersensitive to, you know, the people that are following you, the people that are reading you, the people that are consuming your content. Is it more important to focus on the writing, like your ability to actually write, or is it more important to actually, you know, pay attention to your audience or focus on an audience that you have in mind? Maybe you don't have any followers, so you don't have an audience, so you need to figure out where you're, you know, where you want to, you know, who you want to speak to. What's more important there? I don't know.
chicken or the egg.
Maybe it's not either or. I don't know. You know, I feel like I'm a journalist. Yes or no. You know, like I know things are gray
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah. Hey, buddy. um, I think that the first, whenever I'm starting to write something, I think, what is my end goal? Like, what is the end goal that I'm trying to achieve with this? What's the need that needs to be met? And once I know the need, I can know who I'm kind of trying to speak to. And I think as long as you come from a place that's like authentic and informed, because I think you have to have both, no? That for me, it holds so much weight. It holds so much weight. In the beginning, if you don't know who you're talking to, I don't want to say speak for yourself, but trial and error for a bit, just to see what's actually gaining traction and what's not. And then you can pivot. Like for me, not being afraid to pivot is like the thing that keeps you relevant, the thing that keeps your content useful. But obviously being a good writer helps, and like knowing the numbers helps. But I think people respond most to people that they like, know, and trust. And if you can just kind of tick those 3 boxes consistently, the followers will come and the readers will come. And you want the people that are going to be loyal, and the people who are loyal, people who like feel like they can connect with you. You know, Wikipedia exists, but like, do you just read Wikipedia for fun? Maybe not. Maybe you do, but probably not. You know, you have to find that sweet spot between meeting the need, but also feeling like people can come to you. And that feeling of people being able to come to you is what makes our content so specific, because we get responses, we get the comments, and we get people emailing us from our newsletters asking us more information or sharing their stories with us. And when people share, then we can, like, if one person is sharing, there's probably more people who have the same question, you know? So that's how we can make our content even more tailored. So the fact that our doors are always open when it comes to feedback, constructive criticism, haters, whatever, that's how we can kind of like shape our content.
Wow. So it sounds like, if I can take something out of, you know, from what you just said, it's that, you know, focusing intensively on the audience is key, more than the ability. Because my question was, is it important to like focus on your writing ability? And
Ryan,
you know,
you're literally
maybe it's hard for you to answer that because you already had a good base, because of your literary background, that type of thing, like forming sentences in a, you know, I don't just mean basic sentences, but, you know, creating an argument and supporting that argument, and those types of things might have come natural to you. But it sounds like the audience thing is where it starts, and then, you know, answering a question that your audience has, is more important than how you answer. Like one follows the other, kind of sounds like.
I mean, you're like a perfect example, because you said that like you wouldn't consider yourself a blogger or per se, no, but like we had a need for a specific type of article, and like with no previous blogging experience, you came in and you delivered that because we knew what our audience needed to hear about, and it was in your voice, not necessarily ours, and it still went off. It was a hit to this day, you know. So writing ability plays a part, absolutely, but like when you know who you're talking to and what they need to hear and what they want to hear, they're gonna listen, you know.
Wow. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's, from the marketing standpoint, I mean, it's I think what we all like hear often, but I think it's hard sometimes to implement in our own businesses. And the reason is because if you are concentrated on, for example, delivering your service in your business, and you have you're using content to try to generate clients, leads, revenue, what have you. You're doing other things besides writing, right? You're doing other things within your business. You're actually maybe speaking to clients. You might be a consultant. You're consulting with your clients. You're doing this. You're delivering. You're that, and then you've got this social media thing or this blog thing that you've gotta kind of, okay, I gotta bang something out, and so then you take a different approach to it rather than thinking of it as something that's essential to the continuity of everything else that you're doing. But I guess if you're that type of person, like that's me, and I didn't think of content first. I was always thinking about like, how can I grow something that's sustainable, and I realized that content fit into that whole thing. It took me some time, but how can you understand what type of content can be monetized? Because lots of people like also have come from this place of maybe like imposter syndrome, where they're like, well, I write, but no one would pay for the stuff I'm writing about. And why could I monetize anything if all the stuff is out there for free in 400 articles that I've created, or like, how do you determine what is the content that can be monetized and what is the content that can be offered for free?
Well, I asked myself,
or is there a division there? Is it maybe there's something else in the background working that I didn't mention?
Well, one of the things that really helped me be a good content creator for LMDES specifically was creating avatars for the people very specific avatars. So who we wanted to be reading, and then updating. We even had names, so even updating as we went.
Yeah.
And it really helped humanize our
good marketing exercise.
Yeah, love that. And then the articles for me are seen as like valuable, but more of an intro. And with the monetized content that we have, they come in the form mostly of self-work and like self-study. So an article maybe will spark an idea, okay? And then the content that we offer that are in the forms of PDFs, first off, it's much more extensive. It's much more beautiful. So we focus a lot on imagery, colors, logo, all of it. And then it's a deliverable. It's so much different than just bookmarking a web page or a website, It's something that if they print it, it's high quality enough that they could have it. So we want them to feel like they're actually getting something from us that's not just a quick read or quick like skimming an article. And we usually have had a lot of success with workbooks. So when we have even just the space in the back, those little details where you can like take notes, things like that, take it from just being an article to like a workbook, a book of sorts, So
are these all electronic, or are some of these things shipped to people?
These are electronic at the moment. They're electronic, yeah. But we have had people who said they printed things out and kept them, We have everything from like one-page checklists that are kind of the cute free ones. And then we have, for example, like a figure out your finances workbook that people can use over a period of time. And I think also it's evergreen. It's evergreen with these things. So articles sometimes need to be updated. When you're choosing what kind of content should be monetized, it should be something that you can put on your site and leave for a bit, and that can still be relevant. You don't have to constantly be worrying about updating it either.
Right. Something that's timeless per se.
Yeah,
right?
It lasts a bit longer for sure. So yeah, I figure out our finances workbook is really great. The Find Your Why workbook has also been quite successful. And it's kind of like having one of us with you, talking to you as you're like journaling. And that's kind of like our style of workbook. So asking the hard questions that maybe you wouldn't have thought of, and then giving you the time and space to like write it out in your own time.
And how did you determine how you could monetize some of this content? Like, how did you say like, well, basically if we take this if we package it, you mentioned the process of actually beautifying it and making it actually, substantial so that it feels, there's a different feeling, energy around the actual content that you're creating. But how was it that you were like, well, look, if we combine this, and this into this one PDF, then we should be able to charge X amount for it? Like, how did you get to that stage? How did you say, well, why don't we charge this much for this content? Like, how did you get to the stage where you're like, well, let's do that. Let's actually create content that is valuable to people that will actually pay. How did you dip your toe in the water there?
Yeah. So the first phase of our paid content was our city guides and our admin guide. And basically the idea there was, let's put all of the information in one place, save you a step, and you have it with someone, like, for example, like the Live Like a Local guide, basically it's with like Madrid, Barcelona, Sevilla, Valencia. So you don't have to spend all these hours on Google. That was the pitch. Like, we've been here, we've lived here. We want you to not get trapped in these tourist scams. Here's the ins and outs. You like our style. You've seen our style. We're going to show you where to go. And we're going to save you time. TripAdvisor, what's that? Yep, forget it. Here, look at this. And that was the first time we did that. So we put a price on it, and then it worked. It worked. Obviously a reasonable price because it's still digital, but that's what people wanted when they were traveling. You didn't want to have to carry something else with you. You wanted to be able to pull out your phone or your tablet and be able to check out these guides. So that was the first monetized content. So we wanted to say, how can we make it the most convenient for you to travel and see these places? And then with our next round, when we had our full shift to like our courses and things of the sort, we took things that are relevant to the courses that can kind of warm people up. So finances is one section that we cover in the course, but it's much more extensive in the course. We wanted to give people an idea. So like, hey, this is this is a starting point, but we're going to go even further in the course. So we kind of take things that are relevant to the courses that we offer and then put those into the workbooks. But it's a very different experience when you have the course, because you also have one-on-one sessions with Sienna, for example. So honestly, Ryan, put a price on it and see. See if people are willing to pay for it, because what I had to realize that I'm not our audience. I'm not our audience. So just because maybe I wouldn't buy it doesn't mean that there aren't people and that there isn't a need for it, because I'm not writing for myself. I already live here. I've been here for a long time. I'm not recently a college grad trying to figure out how to get a visa to Spain. But that doesn't mean I can't write for them or give them the value that they need.
I see. Yeah. So you are a writer. There's plenty of different types of content. Some people produce video as well, or there's, I guess, video and word, the written word are the two main types. As a writer, what are the tools that help you be successful at this? I mean, is it just enough to just have a blog? Are there other things that go into the business side of things that allow you guys to be effective at like the monetization part, programs, or the beautification part, because you talked about beautifying things? Like, what are the things that you're using that help you do what you do?
Yeah. So I think, what we mentioned before, basically, I know our voice really well. I know our audience really well. And I'm staying up to date with them. I'm changing as they change. And I don't want to make my job harder than it has to be. So I use the data that I have, but people will tell you what they want. Like, that's the thing. Like, people will tell you, if you get the same question in your inbox more than twice, make an article about it, because someone else has the same question. If you keep getting people expressing concerns in your Facebook community about a specific thing, then that's a topic. You don't have to search too far and wide to find what people want, because they will be vocal about it. And make it attractive. So yeah, listen to what people say. Writing is really about listening to what people say. And again, when I got over my fear of the data, it changed everything. It changed everything. So yeah.
So tell me about that. What about the data? What are you using to kind of evaluate and self-evaluate and recorrect and stay on course? Like what should people be looking out for, especially people that are starting out that might be watching this live feed that are like, well, you know, I have a couple blog pieces. I don't have 400. Obviously, she's got a following. What are you using to track that type of stuff that maybe these people that are just starting out might not know about? Like what types of things are you using?
Well,
Google
first,
Analytics, stuff like
yeah,
that?
we use Google Analytics, and then the platform that we use to host the site is Squarespace, and they also have a really cool analytics section on Squarespace as well. Start off with the basics. So first, before you see whether or not it's successful, your age bracket, country, city, language, all of that first, gender, what people type in the keyword search box on your website. So if they're looking for something, because that means that's their pain point. They're going straight to the point, like Madrid visa or Spain visa. So then you know, okay, that's something I should be paying attention to. And then once you kind of have that, to see how well it's doing, visits, longevity. So is it, because like we have articles that are from like 2017 that are still popular, still very popular. Comments, what people are saying about it, and then on social, shares and saves. For me, views on socials aren't as important as saves, because that means it's relevant enough that they want to come back to it later. And then shares, obviously, because it means more eyes to it. But yeah, I would check, of course, like your stats, but on social, I pay more attention, instead of like visibility, I would pay more attention to saves and shares. And then your analytics on Google. Sorry, my dog is having a fit.
That's okay. If you need to tend to him for a second, that's
a very needy puppy.
it's okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of people read your content, and you've served obviously as an inspiration just because of these phase changes that you have been talking about. You know, people have looked to you, whether you recognize it or not, as kind of like a authority in at least one area of expertise, which could be like living abroad or working abroad or making that change. For people that want to make that same type of impact in their businesses, what is one piece of advice that you can give to them that might help them, you know, reach those goals?
Consistency.
Consistency.
I would say, like, I'm going to speak for myself. I want the people who read my content to kind of see me as a friend, an informed friend who speaks their language and wants the best for them. And we want friends that are reliable. We want a friend that's going to be there. And if you take 3, 4, 5, 6 months off of your blog or off of your content writing, and your friend comes to come and see how you're doing, and there's nothing there and there's radio silence, then that's a missed opportunity. That's a missed opportunity. And I think that even when you may not feel super inspired, that's the chance you have to kind of tap back in. We do surveys, you know, we send out actual surveys to be like, what are you worried about right now? What do you need from us right now? How can we be of use to you? How can we be a better service? So being consistent is, I think, the thing that's kind of saved us, because we're here. We're always here, and people know they can come to us when they need it.
And in the end, that's what also, because of that consistency, is what's driving people to actually trust you in purchasing your actual courses. Because if you hadn't established that relationship that you talk to, and I talk about this all the time, that marketing is building and creating relationships.
Yeah.
If you hadn't created that relationship, then people wouldn't be very interested in wanting to take a course from you or learn from you, because you've already set them up with some expectations because of the content that you've already created and because of your consistency in creating that content.
Yeah. And I also just want to say, like, start with what you have. If you have some long form content on your blog already, group it together, the ones that are relevant, and try to put it as a PDF and see if people would they would buy it if it was all in one place together. We have some long form content that we can put together, make it beautiful, make it relevant, of course, doctor it up, but see if that works. You don't have to make your job much harder, you know? Start with what you have, I think.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much. That was so much information. I really hope that this is of value to everyone watching. I'm sure it will be, because it's been of value to me. It's going to make me want to go back to my blog.
You had such a successful blog post. Don't like discard that. Don't put it out of your mind to blog a little bit more, because you have a knack.
Yeah. No, for me, it's really a time issue. I really am just like, okay, I'm at the teetering point of, building a team, running the business, and trying to step back from the business so that I'm not in the business. Mm-hmm. So I'm working on my business. I don't want to be working in it. But right now I'm working in it hardcore. So it's hard when I'm delivering service, to clients, as well as knowing that I've got to be working to work on my business. I've got to be really concentrated on getting people into it. Mm-hmm. And so I'm at the balancing act right now, where I'm going full speed at service delivery, mm-hmm. but I need to carve out time and make sure that I keep making a priority, the actual breadwinner, which is creating content. That's really, really important. And I recognize it. I just need to be consistent about it, like you said. So,
I mean, but at this point though, right? Like, I would think if you reach out to people who are looking for experience in writing content as well. And like, if you don't have the budget to hire content creators, if you're just starting a business, whoever, like barter, like use titles or use like exposure or things like that to kind of give people experience and also kind of build their repertoire and yours. And it can be, for me, it can become a very beneficial, like reciprocal situation. That's how I started. And then I ended up doing so much more for the company. So yeah.
Definitely. Well, much appreciated. It's been a pleasure. Please, if people want to, because it's very, very possible that there are people that will watch this, because this will be later posted, not just in the group, I'll post it in LinkedIn and some other places and stuff like that. And in one of my other interviews, actually, someone got a client from someone that had viewed the actual interview. If people want to learn more about you, how to get in touch with you, where can they find you?
Well, I'm in this dope community. I'm also on LinkedIn under Danni Roseman, and I deleted my Instagram, so you can't really find me there necessarily. I'm not active at the moment, but yeah, Facebook, LinkedIn.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I thank you so much, Danni, for taking the time out of your day. And please let me thank your dog.
Hello, Max.
He was the one that made this ultimate sacrifice by letting you, hey, doggy. Oh, he has a cone.
Yeah, he just got fixed.
Okay. Yeah. Don't want him licking his part. But much appreciated. I really sincerely wish you the best, and I'm looking forward to seeing you more in the community and reading more of your awesome content and just seeing the awesome stuff that you put out, because I mean, you are an inspiration, especially here in Spain, especially within the community, especially among, it's just great to know that there are people like you doing huge things, doing big things, not just in the world of marketing, but for, people of color and internationally. Mm-hmm. It's just an inspiration. So I appreciate it. And we'll talk to you soon. Thank you for
taking this space too.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.